What am I most excited to see unfold? The nature of Relica's music is diversity first, like there's always I think people now, like anyone who's going into the album who knows who we are, who has a little bit of a pre-existing understanding of who Relica are, um, will know to sort of expect the unexpected. So I think that it comes with the territory with our music, the sort of curveballs that we throw people. But I suppose there will also be a lot of people who have never heard of Relica who are jumping into this album, which is very exciting as well. So I'm excited to see how people who don't know who we are respond to it, I think. I mean, obviously there's an excitement to see the OGs and see how they respond as well. That's always close in my heart. But the the new audience is I'm interested to see how we win, if we win people over or if they sort of go, what the hell is this, and they walk out, sort of thing.
Or they stay.
Or they stay, it could be
Which
one
I'm
or
pretty
the
sure will be the case.
other. Yeah, exactly.
On Killstar, you said there are more than 7 ways to sin. Would you
Mm.
care to elaborate on what some of them are? And if Relica was a sin, what would your transgression be?
Wow. That's a loaded question. It's a good one. It's very creative.
Right.
Trust Wall of Sound to always keep me on my toes. Um, I well, that lyric comes down to the general gist of the song is sort of it's very class driven. So it's written out of spite and anger towards the 1%, basically, if you know what I mean. The highest of the high. And I think if you're talking about there's more than 7 ways to sin, it's like some of the day-to-day things that people who have power and money and wealth and um bravado, some of the ways that they conduct themselves on a day-to-day basis could be considered so harmful. And so but it's the subtext, it's the stuff you don't think is harmful that becomes harmful. It's difficult for me to think of examples off the top of my head, but I guess that's just the general vibe of the lyric, is like the way down to the way you conduct yourself is so important, and it's the way that you the energy that you give off to other people. Like
Mhm.
if you're giving um like selfishness and sort of a absorbing, like just absorbing what you can, taking and never giving, then it's inherently something that affects the world, I guess.
Yeah.
I That second half of the question is so like loaded. If Relica was a sin, I think it would be this is gonna be the worst answer, but like something that we treated as a sin during the album process was compromise. I hope that this answers the question. This was a real mental challenge. Something we treated as a sin during the album writing process was compromise, because our dear producer and friend Chris Blancato said that compromise is the shitty middle of two ideas, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
so it was important to, if two ideas are in conflict, it would be a matter of letting them both go and doing something completely different. So that was a real scary thing that we would do. So like, I mean, we're all like straight edge, so we don't sin so
No,
much.
I since day one, your mentality with music has been to keep everyone on their toes. You've not only exceeded this, but blown expectations out of the water. How important is it to stick to this mantra this early in your career?
It's super important to us to maintain this diversity and this like unexpected energy to us, because really at the end of the day our ethos as a band is open-mindedness. I hope that that aligns with the question. We like to be as as welcoming of as many different ideas as we can. And that extends to our sort of ethos at our live shows, welcoming of as many different groups of people as we can. And also, because we maintain this open-mindedness in our music, it welcomes different fans of different genres into the listener experience as well. Because there are so many opportunities in the heavy music space to bring in strands from other music communities, and that then hopefully taking in the footsteps of bands like Bring Me the Horizon opens up the field to more mainstream spaces. And I think that that's such a great opportunity that needs to be grabbed with both hands, I think.
You've dodged some snakes and navigated your way through the industry like a sexy gent-filled pick scrape. What's one piece of advice that was given to you early on that you still hold close to your heart?
Wow. Honestly, something that I hold close to my heart, that is something that I learned like in the early stage of our career, is to not take yourself too seriously, I think. And it's something that I like to pass on to other people as well. I think I've spoken with Brownie about this exact, but this was quite some time ago, so it's actually nice to do the little comparison.
Yeah.
I bring up this like little fish in a big pond analogy sort of thing. And I think it's important not to be afraid to be the little fish, because that is inherent with the territory. You're going to be feeling overwhelmed and feeling out of your depth at times. But I think that that's such a beautiful thing, because there are so many things to learn from the big fish. And yeah, tying that into the not taking yourself too seriously thing is just finding the joy in those rites of passage, I guess, as a band, and not being afraid to be the little guy in the room, because that can that humility and that excitement to be there is infectious, and it's something that spreads, and people do take notice of that. And if they can see that you're genuinely stoked to be there and you're not afraid to have a little bit of a smile on your face wherever you go, they will invite you back to those spaces, and then the little fish becomes the big fish inherently. And I think it's just about like sort of like wearing your heart on your sleeve and being authentic. Yeah.
We've discussed goals and ambitions throughout the years. What would you say is your current big goal to cross off the dream list? And what's a recent one that had you flabbergasted with your rise?
I think the current, now that we're sitting in a pocket that we are now, you know, we're sitting on the precipice of LP1, getting international, like going abroad is the next big thing to tick off the bucket list for Reliqa, I think. And it does feel like we're in this period of transition too. Like like that precipice is exactly what it feels like, you know, like sort of teetering on the edge, and then eventually like we'll go down, we'll come out swinging. So like we've got all of the strategies in place. Like everything is sort of ready, and like it's sitting there, it's all tucked into bed. It's like everything is neatly laid out in front of us now, which is really exciting. It's just a matter of timing now. So getting the timing right is everything to us. So we won't rush, but I'm hoping that when we do eventually pick that up, then that it'll be the right time and things will flow on naturally. And I think like if we're talking about goals and something that we've recently done that that still floors us to this day, is honestly having collaborated with Nuclear Blast and Grayscale on this campaign. I think it's still I mean, of course it's a lot more normalized now because it's sort of daily routine at this point, but if we're coming back to the mindset we were talking about earlier about wearing your heart on your sleeve and being authentic, I'm not afraid to say right now that this is fucking sick. Like and I really try to check in with myself and have those little moments of gratitude and excitement about where we're headed. So yeah, collaborating with these two labels that we've looked up to for so long has been something that will stick with me for a long time, I think.
Teaming up with both Grayscale and Nuclear Blast Records isn't a small feat. With all the representation in the world, why did you land on these two labels to help launch your debut?
It was it was definitely helpful to have, I'm going to give a shout out to Josh Smith, our manager. It was so helpful to have Josh on our side for this label navigation situation. Chris O'Brien as well. I'll give him a massive shout, as like the two of them just work hand in hand. But I wanted to highlight Josh in particular because he, with Northlane, has been through this experience. You know, he's Northlane are notoriously a band who have been through the label process and now they've come out independent. So I think you can, like, Josh is a really trustworthy person to know which label is right for you and what would be the right situation, because of course, like, this is something we had never done before. This is our first time signing to a label, so there's new territory to navigate at every step, and having guidance is really helpful. And ultimately I think it just sealed the deal once we had the opportunity. I mean, I had met Ash and Josh, like Redbeard from Grayscale, before. Great dudes, like that was a no-brainer. But it sealed the deal being able to meet the Nuclear Blast team and chat with them and sort of get on their level on a personal basis. And that was like that really helped clarify the fact that we were like right for each other. It just felt like a nice fit. They've got a very open-minded ethos, and like I said before, that's something that we carry with us as well. And yeah, it just felt right in the end, and having the guidance, I think, was the number one.
You've come such a long way since the first EP, and we've got a little side note, no, not even tied, lol. And you're only just getting started on this next phase, which is still fresh and exciting in itself. How are you staying grounded, and what advice would you pass on to the next Reliqa coming up in the ranks?
I definitely want to hammer home that idea to not be afraid to be that small fish. We've certainly come a long way since then, and I've had a couple of nice chats recently with other publications where I've had the opportunity to reminisce and sort of say, like, because you look back at your early content and you cringe a little bit, and that's kind of the nature of it. But because yeah, I think this is like maybe an interesting case study to answer this question. We had the conversation just after I Don't Know What I Am, when we said, do we want to leave our first EP up on streaming services? Like, is that something we want to do, or do we want to remove it? Because I have absolutely no shame or disrespect. Like, in fact, I respect the decision of a lot of bands who do remove their catalog, their early catalog, because it is difficult to listen to, because sometimes it doesn't reflect who you are anymore, and people don't want that out in the open for the world to see. But we ultimately decided to keep our original material, like our old material, up on streaming services for that, like to remain true to that identity of ours, that like wearing our heart on our sleeve, being authentic, because it's kind of a magical thing, even though it's cringeworthy and even though it's painful to go back and to hear your old material and know that people are listening to it actively as well. It's like, please don't listen to that. While it is scary, it is kind of beautiful as well, because you can only hope that they hear that and then they see the tangible progression that you've made. And it just shows like that this is like, it shows young bands, this will be your case as well. You may release something that 2 years on you're going to hate, or you're going to think it's just so cringy. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it, because it shows you're moving, it shows you're progressing, and you're never standing still. And that, I think, is the biggest testament to a successful band, is one that's always one step ahead of themselves.
New album means new set list to showcase. What song can you not wait to post live? And does this mean Doomed will finally make its way back in?
Oh, Brownie with the Doomed again. Look, I'm the only thing I'll say is I will bring it to the band and say, hey, how about we play Doomed in Brisbane just for Brownie? Yeah, like, I mean, we've got a whole new set list planned. This is the first time that we will be playing these songs live, so it's scary, but it is also super exciting. I think the song I'm most excited to play live on the album would be, and this is one that hasn't been played yet, would probably be actually the song Soraya, weirdly enough, It's one of the sort of like more intimate, softer, like more moody songs on the album. So that doesn't necessarily translate to the rest of our live set, but in a way, that's kind of the beauty of it. It's going to be something new, and I'm excited to see what kind of relationship we can build with our audience through new songs like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride having all these new songs on there. The only thing I can really say is come and watch us for the first time, because you only get a first time once, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this tour for a long time to come. First headline tour, first debut album. It's a big deal.